Did Appa have horns, and was Momo a robot? What unexpected final twist about Uncle Iroh could ruin the show? And why did showrunners scrap the idea of making the 4th season of The Last Airbender? The making of Appa and Momo. Yeah, I know, the whole story is about the Avatar who can bend all 4 elements and who has to save the world from the Fire Nation. It's a truly heroic plot. But it wouldn't be half as funny and exciting without these 2 characters. At first glance, they couldn't be more different from each other. Appa is a huge 10-ton flying bison, and Momo is a little cute winged lemur. But they bond because both of them are the only survivors of their kind. And there's one more thing that makes Appa and Momo similar. One actor voiced them both. Dee Bradley Baker is truly a genius when it comes to making animal sounds. I can't even believe that this is a person! And Baker was the one who actually came up with these sounds based on the sketches of the characters. I wonder what voices he'd make if he saw the initial drawings of these guys. Appa was supposed to have spiral horns, but the creators removed them because animating them by hand was one hell of a task. And Momo could have been even more different. At first, creators planned for him to be a Cyclops robot monkey that survived the destruction of civilization over 1,000 years back. Whoa! Can you imagine Aang having these kinds of friends? Katara plus Aang or Katara plus Zuko? Whose side are you on? Sure, for most fans, Katara and Aang are the couple when it comes to the Avatar series. But at the same time, many viewers actively shipped Zuko and Katara, or, as fans also call them, Zutara. I mean, these 2 characters have incredible chemistry. At first, they're enemies, and they hate each other. But then they realize that they have a shared trauma. Both Zuko and Katara lost their mothers to the Fire Nation, and they kinda bond. And even the actors who voiced these characters, Dante Bosco and Mae Whitman, wanted them to be together. Mae once asked Dante on Twitter, "How pissed were you when Katara got with Aang and not Zuko on a scale of 1 to 10? And he answered, a 20 plus. But even though Zatara has so much shipping, the show creators Bryan Konietzko and Michael Dante DiMartino never intended for them to be together, even though the Nickelodeon extras once stated that they did. It was always about Katara and Aang as the show's ultimate couple. All 3 seasons show the gradual development of their relationship from friendship to romance, and it all ends with their kiss in the finale. Sorry, Zatara shippers. Sokka could have been an entirely different hero. This guy with a boomerang and a goofy sense of humor. Have you noticed that he was the most kissed main character in the series? In every season, Sokka kissed someone at least 2 or 3 times. This explains his name, which is translated from the Zulu language as Loverboy. I can't imagine him being any different, can you? But in fact, there was an idea to make Sokka a dry and serious guy. The voice actor behind him, Jack DeSena, saved the character by making some changes. He gave him a more prominent and much more vibrant personality, and also added his sense of humor, turning Sokka into the fan-favorite comic relief hero. It's no wonder that the show creators loved the change. And here's a fun fact. DeSena didn't only play with his voice for Sokka, but also with his face. When I'm recording any of the dialogue, I make kind of an over-exaggerated face because to get the whole thing working, I have to oversell it, Jack said in an interview.
Fine by me, if you're not gonna do your job.
It looked and sounded absolutely awesome. I bet everyone had a lot of fun on set watching him do it all. Toph was supposed to be a boy. Wait, what? We all remember Toph as a blind girl who can bend Earth like no one else, and none of the Avatar fans can imagine her as a tough, bulky guy. Actually, I can give you a hint of how she'd look if the creators had followed through with their initial idea. Remember the show's opening credits where Katara tells the brief history of the 4 nations and some burly guy appears as an earthbender there? Well, that was supposed to be Toph, a brash teenager. The only similarity with the Toph we know and love is that he was also supposed to be blind. The show head writer Aaron Ahaz was the first to suggest that this character should be a girl, but Konietzko and DiMartino weren't too impressed initially. Lucky for all of us, Ahaz kept on fighting for his idea, and after some time, the showrunners finally agreed. Once I was on board, Mike and I came up with this idea that she was beating up all these big wrestler-type guys, and now I love her. I love that she's just a tiny 12-year-old girl that kicks butt, Konietzko explained. Didn't it make Toph the most remarkable character? Zuko almost didn't appear again. I know, you can't imagine The Last Airbender without this character and his incredible transformation from a cruel prince to a true hero. But initially, Zuko was nothing but an extension of the Fire Lord's persona, and he wasn't supposed to be one of the main characters. The only villain we had was the Fire Lord, whom we imagined leading the war from the comfort of his throne. DiMartino recalled the initial stages of making the Avatar. And he added that producer Eric Coleman posed a question that ultimately gave birth to the banished prince. He asked, what if there was a young villain going after Aang in each episode?
You help me find what I want. You'll get this back, and everyone goes home happy. Search the woods for the boy and meet me back here.
That was a great idea, and it turned Zuko from a faceless sidekick to an immediate villain, and finally, to an ally of the Avatar team. I couldn't be happier that they made it happen. After all, this character stole our hearts in the end, when his complex personality and true motivations were uncovered. But Zuko's character development wouldn't be complete without his uncle. Uncle Iroh was nearly a very different man. One of the most likable characters on Avatar, this fire-bending master was the only calming element in Zuko's life, and he played a pivotal role in the prince's development. Now imagine the soft, empathetic, and light-hearted Uncle Iroh as a very harsh character, a hardened military man. But again, head writer Aaron Ahaz improved the show with his suggestion to humanize him. And yet, the initial portrayal of Uncle Iroh didn't just disappear. What was cool was that the original idea was just a younger version of Iroh, Konietzko said. He used to be that really hardcore general and military guy, and now he's sort of in his golden years. But wait till you learn one more shocking thing about this lovable character. I'll tell you honestly, I couldn't think straight after learning it. Uncle Iroh was supposed to betray Zuko as a final twist in the series finale. Yeah, you heard that right. He'd come out as a double agent and stab his nephew in the back, forgetting all about his lessons on compassion. Thankfully, the writers realized that it wasn't a proper ending for the fan-favorite character and ditched the idea. Phew! The beginning was rough. The Avatar series started with the sketch of a balding, middle-aged man whom Bryan Konietzko decided to reimagine as a child. He drew him as an air kid who herds bison in the sky. Meanwhile, Michael Dante DiMartino had just watched a documentary about explorers stuck at the South Pole, and, being creative geniuses, they combined the ideas. There's an air guy along with these water people trapped in a snowy wasteland, and maybe some fire people are pressing down on them, Konietzko recalled. And then they added the Eastern philosophies they loved so much, along with some concepts from Japanese anime, kung fu cinema, and even yoga. Due to all these influences, Konietzko and DiMartino naturally wanted to collaborate with the Japanese studio for the series. But no one returned their phone calls, and they ended up working with the Korean studio Tin House. And when they took Avatar to Nickelodeon, they suddenly had to change everything. Initially, the series was just supposed to be based on their childhood memories, but Nickelodeon wanted action, lore, and adventure. Mike and I went back to square one. We laid out every idea we had on the table indiscriminately, Konietzko said. After hours and hours of brainstorming, they came up with the Avatar as we know it. At some point, they even decided to make the 4th season. What? You didn't know? Then keep watching, we'll get to that soon. The 4 nations in the Avatar didn't come out of nowhere. You probably didn't notice on your first watch, I know I didn't, but each one of the nations has a solid foundation that comes from real history. For example, the air nomads come from Buddhism, Tibetan culture, and the Shaolin monks. Just think about it. They're bald, they wear orange, practice meditation, and they're vegetarians. How closer could the Air Nation be to Buddhism? Even their temples resemble real-life pagodas. Next, the Water Tribes show the enormous influence of many Aboriginal cultures: Native Americans, Native Australians, Inuits, and others. Just look at that. They live in igloos, wear heavy fur, and rely heavily on fishing and hunting. The Earth Kingdom shows the influence of Chinese culture. Remember their top knots? That's definitely Chinese. And finally, the Fire Nation was heavily inspired by the Japanese culture. And later, writers added some influences from Southeast Asia and China. I'm so excited to rewatch the show to catch all these inspirations. And here's another fun fact. The show actually had a martial arts consultant on set for the animators to draw the fights accurately.
So we decided that the best way, of course, would be to get these people to actually perform the movements.
Even the show creators participated. I bet they had so much fun. The 4th season could happen? Sozin's Comet was a perfect finale, but for a while, the show creators thought about giving the series a 4th season. Head writer Aaron Ahaz says that he really wanted it to happen, and he even had a few excellent ideas for it. First of all, he intended to show the redemption arc for Zuko's sister Azula in the 4th chapter. In her darkest moment, she'd come to Zuko for help, and it would parallel his own journey from darkness to light. The fourth season would also show how Aang would deal with the feelings of guilt and anger after taking away Fire Lord's bending powers. And of course, it would also reveal how the whole world would adapt to the fall of the Fire Nation and what it would mean for other nations. The showrunners were initially on board with the idea of making a fourth season, but these plans got interrupted. Konietzko and DiMartino decided to focus on helping to produce the 2010 live-action The Last Airbender film. As we now know, it was a bad decision because that film turned out to be complete trash. If you haven't watched it, don't. I'll tell you just one thing about it in case you didn't know. The film has a 5% score on Rotten Tomatoes, while the original series has 100%. But thankfully, we'll soon see a new live-action version of Avatar The Last Airbender on Netflix. Hopefully, the creators learned from the mistakes of the first movie, and this time it'll be much better. Are you looking forward to this film? And what would you like to know about it or about the original series? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see more cool content.